Hello students, how are you all? I hope you all are fine and doing well. Today, again I am here, Shwetamal from Green Valley English School to teach you biology. In our last class, we studied about the chapter Reproduction in Animals, and we have gone through the topic Female Reproductive System and Fertilization. Today, we'll start with the topic Implantation and the Development of Embryo. The zygote divides rapidly and repeatedly to form a ball of many cells called an embryo. What happens? The zygote divides rapidly and repeatedly it forms a ball of many cells. It forms a ball of many cells. It forms a ball of many cells, and that is called an embryo. By this time, it reaches the uterus. It sinks into the soft and thick wall of the uterus and gets fixed. Now, the fixing of the embryo in the wall of the uterus for the further development is called as implantation. So, what is implantation? The fixing of the embryo in the wall of the uterus for further development is called as implantation. The state is called as pregnancy. What is this stage called? This stage is called as pregnancy. Okay, now the cells then begin to form groups that develop into different tissues, organs and organ system of the body, and this process is called differentiation. So I told you about what? I told you about embryo. So what is embryo? The zygote divides rapidly and repeatedly to form a ball of many cells, and that is called as embryo. Second thing was implantation. What is implantation? The fixing of the embryo in the wall of the uterus for the further development is called implantation. This state is called as pregnancy. Okay, now the cells then begins to form groups. They begins to form groups that develop into different tissues, organs and organ system of the body. This process is called as differentiation. The embryo is attached to the uterus by the placenta. How is embryo attached to the uterus? The embryo is attached to the uterus by the placenta, and it provides nutrition to the growing embryo. What does it provide? It provides nutrition to the growing embryo. The embryo is surrounded by a sac-like membrane. How it is surrounded? It is surrounded by a sac-like membrane filled with a fluid. A fluid is inside it. Suppose that this is the embryo. What happens? It is surrounded by, how it is surrounded? It is surrounded by a sac-like membrane which is all filled with fluid. Okay? Then the fluid, how does it act? The fluid acts as a cushion and protects the growing embryo. How does the fluid act? The fluid acts as a cushion, and then what happens to it? It acts as a cushion and protects the growing embryo. Now the embryo continues to develop in the uterus. Now the embryo starts to develop. It gradually develops to body parts such as hands, legs, head, eyes, ears. Okay, the stage of embryo in which all the body parts can be identified is called as fetus. What is it called? Fetus. That stage of the embryo in which all the body parts can be identified. That stage is called as fetus. Okay, now the period from fertilization of the eggs till the birth of the baby, that period is called as gestation. What is that called? It is called as gestation period, and in humans it is about 280 days to or 9 months. Clear? So what is gestation period? the period from fertilization of the egg till the birth of the baby, till the baby takes birth, that whole period is called as gestation period. And in human beings, it is about 280 days or 9 months. When the fetus is fully developed, the muscles of the uterus contract to push the baby out from the womb, and the mother gives birth to the baby. What happens when the fetus is fully developed? The muscles of the uterus contract to push the baby out from the womb, and the mother gives birth to the baby. So, is it now clear to you all? So, again I am going to tell you this with the help of slide. Let us see that slide. Stages of pregnancy and development. There are different stages in pregnancy and development. That is fertilization, embryonic development, cleavage, fetal, that is differentiation, growth, that is development, and childbirth. Fertilization. The egg is viable for 12 to 24 hours after ovulation. Sperms are viable for 12 to 48 hours after ejaculation. Sperm cells must make their way to the uterine tube for fertilization to be possible. Now the zygote. This is the zygote. The sperm and egg join to form a zygote, the first cell of a new individual. Zygote results of the fusion of DNA from sperm and egg. Fertilization occurs in the fallopian tubes. The zygote begins rapid mitotic cell division beginning of human development. Only 30 hours after conception, size no larger than the head of a pin. The size is no larger than the head of a pin. Still rapidly dividing, it is still dividing rapidly. The zygote floats down from the fallopian tube and towards the uterus. This is the cleavage. Cleavage is the mitotic division of the cells in the early embryo. Morula. After 96 hours after fertilization, this picture shows a morula, a solid ball of 32 cells, then resembles a raspberry. It resembles like a raspberry. Blastula. 5 days after fertilization. After 5 days of fertilization, that period is called as blastula. A ball of more than 64 cells surrounding a fluid-filled cavity, that is blastocell. Blastula is provided by the repeated mitotic division of a zygote. Cleavage implantation. Blastocyst. The fastening of the embryo to the wall of the uterus is called as implantation. What is called implantation? The fastening of the embryo to the wall of the uterus is called as implantation. Implantation occurs 7 days after fertilization. After 7 days of fertilization, implantation occurs. And implantation takes place in the uterus. Where does implantation takes place? It takes place in the uterus. Now the embryo. The embryo is the developmental stage from the start of cleavage until the 9th week. The embryo first undergoes division without growth. The embryo enters the uterus at the 16 cell state. The embryo floats free in the uterus temporarily. Uterine secretions are used for nourishment. Now, differentiation, that is gastrulation. Gastrulation involves a series of cell migrations to positions where they will form the 3 primary cell layers. Ectoderm forms the outer layer. Ectoderm forms skin, hair, sweat glands, epithelium, brain, and the nervous system. Now the second one is endoderm. Endoderm forms the inner layer. The endoderm forms digestive, respiratory system, liver, pancreas, and the bladder. And endocrine glands such as thyroid and parathyroid glands. Now comes mesoderm. Mesoderm forms the middle layer. What does it form? It forms the middle layer. And the mesoderm forms the body muscles, cartilage, bone, blood, reproductive system organs, and kidneys. Now, development from ovulation and implantation. This is the zygote, early fertilized egg. Now the early cleavage, that 4-cell stage. Now comes the morula, early blastoplast. That is, this is blastocyst cavity, and the last one is late blastocyst, that is implanting. Okay children, what is this? This is uterus, and this is endometrium. This is ovulation, this is secondary-oocyte, uterine tube, and this is the fertilization. And now this diagram has been shown for the zygote, that is fertilized egg. Okay. Now differentiation, embryo 0.5 centimeters, 20 days after fertilization. It is seen in this way. Embryo begins to form organs during the 3rd week. Cannot tell if it is human or other vertebrate. Tall, visible. Now here shows the embryo of 1 month, 0.6 centimeters. Ears, nose and eyes not visible. Small arm and leg buds, backbone seen, and heartbeats. Now this is the fetus. This is 2 months fetus, that is of 3 centimeters. During the 2nd month, most of the major organ system form, limb buds develop. Limbs distinct with fingers and toes bones to begin to form eyes far apart, far apart. Now the embryo becomes a fetus by the 7th week. This embryo becomes fetus by the 7th week. Now differentiation, fetus at 9 weeks. All organ systems are formed by the end of the 8th week. By the end of the 8th week, all the organ systems are formed, and activities of the fetus and growth and organ specialization, a stage of tremendous growth and change in appearance. Now fetus of 2 months, that is 3 centimeters, beginning the 8th week, the sexually neutral fetus activates gene pathways for sex determination, forming testes in XY fetus and ovaries in XX fetuses. External genitalia develop. Now fetus of 4 months, that is of 18 centimeters, head enlarged, face has human feature, head is enlarged and the face has started taking human features. The fetus increases in size, its size increases during this trimester, and the bony parts of the skeleton begin to form, and the fetal movements can be felt by the mother. The mother can feel the fetal movements. Fetus of 7 months. See, the growth has now come to 7 months. About 40 centimeters, the growth has come to 40 centimeters. And during this time, trimester, the fetus increases in size. Its size increases. And circulatory and respiratory systems mature in preparation for air breathing. Their circulatory and respiratory systems are matured. Fetal growth during this time uses large parts of its mother's protein and the calcium intake. Maternal antibodies pass to the fetus during the last month, conferring temporarily immunity. Now fetus is about 50 centimeters. Its growth is about 50 centimeters and it has grown up to 9 months. The baby is now of 9 months. What happens? Fat under skin, smooth wrinkles. Nails on fingers and the toes completely formed. Baby at term. So here is the full diagram of fertilization, cleavage, gastrula, embryo, fetus and fetus. So now let us discuss about growth. When I say about growth, growth is a natural process. Which type of process it is? It is a natural process. It includes the following stages in the life of a human being. What are those stages? Those are infancy, childhood, adolescence and adulthood. What are those stages? Those are infancy, childhood adolescence and adulthood. When I talk about infancy, what is infancy? The stage is from the birth of a child to about 2 years. This stage is from the birth of the child to about 2 years of age. Growth occurs rapidly in this phase. In this phase, the growth occurs rapidly, and it is only up to the 2 years of a child. Now comes childhood. What is childhood? This stage is between 3 to 11 years. When a child is of 3 years to 11 years, he is childhood age. So, various physical changes occur in the body during this time. Various physical changes occur in the body through this time. And now adolescence. What is adolescence? You all are going through the adolescent stage. This stage is between 11 to 19 years. What is this stage is in between? 11 to 19 years. Puberty occurs in this phase. Now the question comes, what is puberty? The age at which the production of sex hormones and the reproductive cells starts in a boy or a girl is called puberty. Puberty is that age at which the production of sex hormones and the reproductive cells starts in a boy or a girl is called puberty. The human body undergoes several changes during this phase. It becomes sexually mature to reproduce, and the male or female girl and boy become sexually mature to reproduce. Okay, now there is adulthood phase. We are going through adulthood phase. I is going through adulthood phase. This stage follows the adolescence. An individual attains complete growth and emotional stability at this age. One gives priority to career and shouldering responsibilities. What happens in adulthood stage? This stage follows the adolescence. An individual attains complete growth and emotional stability at this stage, and one gives priority to his career and shouldering the responsibility. So this was all about the chapter reproduction in animals, and I hope that it is all understood by you all. So students, go through the chapter very thoroughly and just have the reading of the chapter. Okay, so thank you students.